There we go. I just hit it wrong. Okay, it's at 9:01. I call the Finance Committee to order. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Kuzma?
Here.
Commissioner Brown?
Here.
Commissioner Avery?
Here.
Commissioner Wayhill? Commissioner Ellenberg?
Here.
Okay, I'm looking for approval of the minutes from September the 6th. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. We now take time for public comment to the committee. Is there anyone from the public that wishes to address the committee at this point in time? Is there anybody that wishes to address the committee at this point in time? Last time? The session is closed. Communications, I don't think we have any, do we, Josh?
No, sir.
Old business, none. New business, resolution 23397, approval of a request to create, post, and fill one health technician position at Genesee County's Health Department. The cost of this position to be paid from account number ending in 702.000.
Support.
Is there any discussion? Seeing, I'm sorry.
This was in the budget, right?
I assume so. Can we, in the health department?
Yeah, it's contingent upon them getting a local health department grant.
Okay.
Alright.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Resolution 23418, approval of a proposed amendment to the 22-23 appropriations resolution reallocating expenditures and revenues within Fund 2731. This amendment is a result of a decreased employee food and operating cost.
So moved.
Support.
Is there any discussion?
Mr. Chair, just to clarify on this one and the next one, it's a decreased employee cost but increased food and operational costs, so it's just moving that money around within the budget.
Okay, so the number 4, which was my question, that was the one that was different than the other two, so that one's correct.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay, increased employee food and operating, no, just decreased employee, but increased
So our
food.
employee costs are lower, but our food costs and operational costs increase, so we're moving that excess employee funding that we have over to cover those food and operational expenses.
Is there any other questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Resolution 23419, approval of a proposed amendment to the 22-23 appropriations resolution reallocating expenditures and revenues within the fund ending in 697.14. This amendment is a result of decreased employee and increased food and operating costs. Is that correct, Josh?
Yes.
Support.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes. Resolution 23420, approval of proposed amendment to the 22-23 appropriations resolution reallocating expenditures and revenues within the fund ending in 697.16. This amendment is the result of decreased employee cost and increased food and operating cost.
So moved.
Support.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Mr. Chairman, 422, 423, and 424 are all similar with the same reasoning. I don't know if you
Move them as a group.
move them as a group.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to entertain these as a group, 5, 6, and 7. Any discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes. Resolution 23498, approval of request to create, post, and fill a community health analyst position at Genesee County's Health Department. This position would be fully grant funded.
So moved.
Support.
Any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Resolution 23499, approval of a request to create, post, and fill a community health liaison position at Genesee County's Health Department. The cost of this is grant funded.
So moved.
Support.
Any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes. Resolution 23-500, approval of a request to create, post, and fill a health education position at Genesee County's Health Department. The cost for this position will be paid from the Genesee County Healthcare Services Millage Fund.
Move it. Support.
Any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes. Resolution 23-501, approval of a request by Genesee County's Drain Commissioner to use the full faith and credit of Genesee County for Orchard Park Inter-County Drain,
So moved.
1698 Barony.
Support. I have a question.
Yes,
What's this entail?
Susan can fill us in.
Hello,
Hello.
I brought Laura Bassett with me from Dickinson and Wright, so if you have any detailed questions. We were petitioned back around 2016 for a drain project on the southern border of Genesee and northern border of Livingston County. And we've gone through the process, acquired all the necessary easements, bid the work, and we're in the process of doing the construction. And bonds usually require full faith and credit by the counties. Even though we do it through special assessment, it's not general fund money in the respect that the district pays for it, but we're not.
But it's borrowed from.
We borrow from a bond,
Yeah, do you want me to, okay, so
Yeah.
it was Laura Bassett from the Conservatory Bond Council to the Drainage District and the Drain Office here as well. So bonds will be issued once the Drainage District determines final cost, through bids out to investors, and potential bank purchasers. Those investors and banks, are not willing to purchase bonds, particularly at this amount, meaning over $1 million, unless they get the full faith and credit pledges of whatever counties are involved. This is also going through Livingston County. Genesee's full faith and credit pledge would not apply, and we'd be back to the drawing board if it doesn't pass both counties, so we need both counties' pledges. What it does simply is allow the bonds to be sold on the market, because investors see special assessment payments only and say, well, we don't wanna buy these. That's the gist of it. That's all it is a secondary pledge, and support for the bonds, in case, in the event that, a special assessments were not paid. We don't usually see that happening where it has to go to the county for that payment. If it did, Genesee's pledge would only apply to special assessments within Genesee County. They're not responsible for the Livingston County special assessments. And if it did, the Michigan's Drain Code, under statutory law, the county would be able to be reimbursed through additional assessments for those, any payments that had to be made on funds.
Have you already received Livingston's?
It went through committee this week and was
Okay.
passed, and it goes to the full board next week.
Okay, all right, thank you.
any other questions? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes. Resolution 23-506, forwarding to receive and file a copy of the foreclosing governmental unit report of real property foreclosure sales.
So moved.
Support.
Is there any discussion?
What is this?
What is this? It's a report that we're required to do, I think, maybe this year for sure, maybe next, I can't remember if we, but it's a report that goes to Department of Treasury, and we give it to you to see too that, and really the bottom line is if you look at the last column, it looks like we made $5.399 million, but really what that means is we did not, that's what we lost through the auction, which is normal for us. We actually had total taxes and fees and interest of $7 million. We got about $2 million in the auction, a little bit more than that, and then this is what is remaining. We make that up through, we have paid that money to the local units, and we will get this money back from them. Pretty much that's it, so thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes. Resolution 23-506, 7. approval of a request by Genesee County's Treasurer and Probate Court to create a Home for Generations program to assist families living in inherited homes.
So moved.
Support.
Okay, I do have a question. Deb, could you explain it?
Yes, that is.
Because I live in an inherited home.
You live in here. Well, this is for property that a lot of times, well, not a lot, but we do get cases where a home is, for example, it's in delinquent taxes, and the deed is not in the person that lives in its name. It's probably in their grandfather's name or their father's name.
Or a
It's
trust.
it's never been changed in the deed. And what we're trying to do, and it becomes a problem when you're trying to collect taxes and you don't want, we really are trying to avoid having people lose their homes. And so this is a way for us to get the names switched over to them. We'll help them do it because a lot of times it's really complicated. And I really want to thank Ashley Crew and Sam Olson, who's not here. He had to go, I think he had some things in probate court that he had to stay and work on. But at any rate, and Carla Vandepfeiffer in our office really put this program together. We modeled it after Washtenaw County because they also have had cases like this. And I think the Wayne County Treasurer is also going to do a similar thing. And there might be another, I know there's another county, but I can't remember the name of it. But at any rate, it's really to help people who are kind of stuck in the middle ground and can't, and because of the complicated legal procedures in getting a home transferred that's been in somebody's name for a long time, it helps in that. We're trying to help them as much as we can.
Mr. Chairman, just to expound on what she's saying, so if I'm living in a house that my mother owned and I don't know the process to go get my deed changed to my name and I'm delinquent on my taxes, I'm not eligible for help through the various programs that we have to help with our delinquent taxes because the house isn't in my name. So what the treasurer is trying to do is get that house into that person's name and then they'll be eligible for the various programs that are available if you're delinquent on your taxes.
Yeah, that's a big part of it.
Well, I don't have any problem with that. I'll vote yes, but my
I figured.
question is how often does this happen within the
Well,
county?
we don't really know for sure. We think that it happens quite a bit, especially in the cities. And it really can fall back on when it was hard for minorities, African Americans specifically, to purchase properties in their names. And so this is a way, it just hasn't been corrected since then. So we're trying to move, get it back and get it into the names of who it should be.
Yeah, so this is something once the institute will go on year to year for quite a few years
Right.
into the future.
Right. We will pay any cost. We're expecting the really major cost is going to be for attorney fees. We've planned for $1,000 for an attorney that we would pay
To help
for,
them,
and any court costs. And right now, I think we're planning about $20,000, although we really don't know how much it's going to be, and that money's going to come out of the delinquent tax revolving fund.
Any questions?
She just answered it right there. I just wanted to
Okay.
know where the money was gonna come from.
Okay,
Oh, we had about 20 to 25 people that we did postpone this year that fall into this category that we might be able to help.
any other questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Resolution 23-512, approval of a proposed amendment to the 22-23 appropriations resolution allowing for the reallocation of expenditures within the community corrections budget.
So moved. Support.
Is there any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Resolution 23-516, approval of a proposed amendment to the 22-23 appropriations resolution to allow for various transfers within multiple circuit court budget line items.
Support, Yeah.
You want to move it?
Yeah, so
Yeah,
Okay,
and I'll support.
okay. Is there any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes. Resolution 23-520, approval of a grant award from the Michigan Natural Resources Trust Fund in the amount of $300,000 to provide for Richfield Park improvements along the Iron Belt Trail. The match for this grant, $105,500, will be paid from the Parks Fund with no general fund requirement.
Support.
Is there any, all right, fight. Is there any discussion?
Don't need me.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes. 23-521, approval of a grant award from the Michigan Natural Resource Trust Fund in the amount of $18,000 to provide for purchase of adjacent properties at Burston Field House. The match for this grant, $6,500, will be paid by Friends of Burston Field
So
House
moved.
with contribution from Genesee County.
Josh, can you explain any of this?
Yes, that's a typo on there. There is no contribution from Genesee County. Zero contribution from Genesee County on that. So there, Friends of Burson is embarking on a expansion and renovation of the existing facility up there. Part of that has made the need to acquire some properties that are around, so they made application to the trust fund to help offset the cost of that.
So do we need to amend the resolution? Just leave
Resolution's
off?
correct.
Okay.
Yeah, just the wording's wrong.
All
But
those,
no contribution.
any other questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes. Resolution 23-533, approval of a request to create, post, and fill a deputy finance officer position at Genesee County's Office of Physical Services. This is a budgeted request.
So moved.
Support.
Is there any discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes. Resolution 23-536, approval of a reorganization of the Genesee County Prosecutor's Office.
So moved.
Support.
Is there any discussion?
Can we
Yes,
see what the reorganization is about? And if it's cost savings?
Well, let's start with cost savings. None of the reorganization touches the general fund monies at all. Because as some of you are aware, we were successful in obtaining a $3 million allocation from the state of Michigan. And I want to thank State Senator John Cherry, who was instrumental in getting the monies for the Genesee County Prosecutor's Office, as well as $5 million for Wayne County and $1 million for Ingham, Saginaw, Kalamazoo, and Muskegon counties, all of which have been identified as unfortunately high crime counties with significant backlogs of cases due to extraordinarily low numbers of prosecutors and very, very high caseloads per prosecutor. So if you look at the discussion paragraph of the memo Tammy and I wrote together, and let me say right here, I want to shout out to Tammy Phillips, my chief assistant, and our office manager, Rochelle Brown, who put together this plan so that we can spend this $3 million. So the $3 million was allocated to Genesee in order for us to be able to increase the number of prosecutors that we have. But as you know from my past chats with you over the years, we don't have enough people working in our office. And in the last several years, when we have had a position posted, we've had 0 applications. And that's because the wages are too low. We are not competitive. Not too long ago, our entry-level pay for a new prosecutor was $43,000. Now, you did raise that up I don't know, within the last year, Anita, to 63. But that's still not competitive. Lapeer County, our neighbor to the east, which has a much different type of caseload for its prosecutors, starts them at $83,000. In order for us to attract people, we have to be competitive. So some of this $3 million raises the pay, raises up the ship, so that we can become competitive in our hiring process. My plan with this money is to raise pay and be able to be competitive and then hire a slew of new prosecutors and paralegals so that we can have 2 prosecutors in every circuit court, thereby moving the caseload along. There's no delays because trials are a lot of work. I don't know how many of you understand this completely, and it's hard to unless you actually have done it. But being a prosecutor means that you are the producer, the director, and the lead actor in a play that unfolds in a courtroom. And it takes a lot out of you physically and mentally. And I don't care if you're trying a low-level felony case or a murder case, which sadly we have too many of. So this way, if we have 2 per courtroom, we can keep the train rolling. And if the train keeps rolling, it will have a reverberating effect on the sheriff's hotel, and we'll have fewer residents because we'll be able to keep the train rolling down the track. As you know, many of the people over at the jail are waiting for something to happen. More prosecutors, things can happen more quickly. So that's the overall plan. Now, Senator Cherry and I have had a lot of discussions about this. I testified in front of his committee, which led to this. Many other counties are in the same boat. The plan is for this to be sustainable funding. The Prosecuting Attorneys Association has a lobbyist who's working on behalf of all the counties. Genesee County's lobbyist was helpful in helping us get this money. But Senator Cherry said to me, you've got to spend this money. If you don't spend it, the state's gonna cut it off. But if you do spend it, they're likely, very likely, to keep it rolling and keep it sustainable. And this gives us, all of you and me, an opportunity to get prosecutor's office off the general fund dole. I mean, you still have to, the legislation says you can't cut me from where I'm at, but I don't, as you know, this year, I didn't come to you and say I need more because I knew this was coming. And as those of you who've been here a while know, I've been knocking on the door for more money for years. And the answer originally was, well, you don't need it. And then finally you started to say, well, I know you need it, but we don't have it. Well, I went elsewhere and I was fortunately very successful. So that's the overall plan.
Mr. Chair, so how many, what would be the starting salary for the prosecutors?
$83,000.
83? And then how many do you plan on hiring?
Dan?
If I can add to that, it's hard to tell because we don't know which level we'll be able to hire at. Part of this also addresses the issue that we've had over the years with when we need to hire experience. Our answer is, we know you've been a prosecutor elsewhere for 25 years, but I can only hire you on down here. So we broke things up into kind of some tiers. We're going to look to try and hire at the young, less experienced end to build some legacy into the program by training up young prosecutors. So if I hire a lot down here, then maybe I can hire more. If we have the ability to grab some really great experience from other counties where people are retiring, then that kind of factors into the how many. So we kind of phased the program with the first goal being to double up on our circuit court attorneys and fill maybe like 3 other slots where we're severely depressed in our ability to respond to the workload. And then we'll kind of see from there how we can fit with attorneys. And I worked very closely with Crystal and the World best financial analyst, Doug Delecky, and Anita at HR to kind of figure all of this out. And the answer kind of was, we got 3 million. I'm gonna try and get as many people as I can in the various classifications to fill that, but it'll be a process.
So would there be a chain reaction if we're starting out at 83? So then the ones that are already there, will that bump their salary up also?
Absolutely, yes.
And is there a percentage that will bump them up? I mean, I don't know if they all make 83 or they'll be
No, no,
like,
there's a whole new pay structure. That's part of this reorganization.
okay. So like the ones that are prosecutors now, so we'll get it.
Everybody's gonna have to reapply because we've changed some of the requirements. But the ship is being raised for everybody.
Okay,
And if we were just to bring in the new people at the new rates,
right.
that would be so unfair to these people who've been working,
That's what
80 hours a week to keep the ship afloat all these years.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know. Okay, all right, thank you.
John?
I'll wait till they're done. Just, my fear is this, and we received this $3 million this year. We raise everyone up. We've hired all these new people. We understand Lansing changes as far as elected people come and go, and it's gone. Is there a plan in place to sustain this if those funds disappear? Because you know what's gonna happen, and you know where I'm going with this, is eventually they're gonna come back to us and say, well, you can't cut these people's wages or we're gonna lose everybody, so then it's gonna come out of the general fund. So this is only for 1 year, if I'm correct for now?
Yes and no.
Okay.
The discussions that have revolved around what happened here is we need, as prosecutors, sustainable funding. The legislature heard that message. When I testified, I made it very clear that 1 year doesn't help us at all. This has to be sustainable, which is why Senator Cherry said, spend the money because they won't want to lay off prosecutors if you've hired them. So I anticipate this to not be a 1 year deal. I anticipate this to be sustainable funding. And in fact, we feel like we've kicked open the door to allow all the 83 counties to get something as we move forward. Clearly, we were the big winner here in the first year. When you think about per capita who got what, we did very well. And Senator Cherry, and let me also thank Representative Jasper Martis, who was instrumental in helping us get this and has taken on the burden of trying to make this sustainable. So I anticipated your question, Commissioner Shoemaker. This gives us the best chance we've ever had of getting my office off of the general fund in terms of me coming to you every year and saying, I need more, I need more. We've got to take this opportunity. If we just say now, well, you know, because it's not 100% certain that it's going to continue, it's only 90% certain, we can't agree to this, then we're shutting down any chance we'll ever have of getting sustainable state funding for my office and for offices across the state. So I'm confident, should doomsday occur, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it.
If I may continue. I'm not saying don't do it, because I wouldn't say turn away $3 million, because that's foolish. My fear is that we as a board now need to prepare that if it does go a contingency plan, that how many we need to keep and where those funds are gonna come from in the future, instead of being, you know, emergency reactive. Take this now, but say, okay, let's say it stops, or let's say they only give us half as much next year. How do we as a board prepare these funds and put these funds aside so we can continue with these people and get this process through? So I'm, like I said, I would be foolish not to take it.
But we can't put the funds aside.
No, not your funds. I'm saying
You're
you don't get the
talking
funds anymore. I'm not gonna walk in and go to a prosecutor that we just gave a raise a year before and go, hey, you know that 12 grand we gave you? Yeah, we're gonna need it back, because it doesn't work like that, and you know that. So I'm just trying to say, how do you put that money aside so if it does happen, are we prepared for that in some way? And like I said, I'm not on the finance committee, but you know me, I wanna think forward and how we prepare for all scenarios, because if you've been here long enough, and the prosecutors have been around long enough to know that, guess what? Lansing changes. And we're all elected, and that wind can switch and change, and their priorities change, so we should be prepared, because we know this has been a long time problem in the prosecutor's office, and I'm glad we have funds now. So we can be prepared to sustain some of that, and that's what I have, but I wouldn't say, please don't misunderstand me, take the money, move forward, let's go.
Commissioner, just so you know, this was a bipartisan supported effort. When I testified in front of Senator Cherry's Appropriations Subcommittee on General Government, both parties were extraordinarily supportive after they heard the testimony from me and from Prosecutor Getting of Kalamazoo County. And the vote on this was not party line. And really, nobody wants to lay off prosecutors, Democrat or Republican. So I think Senator Cherry's right on. If you hire prosecutors, this is gonna be really getting the ball rolling towards sustainable funding.
If I may just add one thing, and I would hope you're right, but I also thought they wouldn't short us $2 million for a city lockup, so I have to lay off police officers. And, you know.
That's an across the street issue.
Hold that, it's still, Lansing did not send the funds to our sheriff. Okay, so when it comes to politicians, and if you've been around long enough, guess what? Listen.
I think that's more bureaucrat.
Yes,
bureaucrats.
but the fact is things change no matter if everybody would be supportive of it or not. And now we're dealing with a loss over there. So I just want to be prepared on our side. Not that we're going to change anything you're doing, because I'm excited about it. I think it's wonderful. But I just want this board to be prepared that guess what? Things change even when you think, because okay, we are a county that is largely run by, its voters are Democrat. And you have a Democratic governor, you have a Democrat House and a Senate, and they still, from one of the larger Democrat counties, decided you don't need your lockup anymore, you don't need $2 million. So whether it's party lines, you want to say it's down or whatever it is, politicians get different priorities. And so we as a board need to just be prepared in the future. That's all I'm saying. Move forward with this, please, I'll shut up. But I want us to be ready if those funds stop, so we don't have the situation we have over at the Flint City lockup. So
Okay,
there's something.
Sean, wrap it up.
Yeah, I just have,
Could you just wrap it up? You're repeating yourself is what I'm saying.
That's very hurtful.
I could just have,
Oh, I know it is.
well,
But I know you well enough, you can understand it.
if I could. I think you'll spend the money, you know, I understand kind of on what Commissioner Shoemaker's saying, but all our programs are ran on grants, and we're never promised that they're gonna be renewed. We hope that they're renewed, but by showing good faith and that we're spending it wisely, that's how they do get renewed. So feeling that, you know, getting more prosecutors, raising the price of the prosecutors, you know, if the grant didn't follow through next year, you would lay off the new ones that were rehired, which, like you said, they don't like to lay off a prosecutor. The only ones that we would be stuck with the money is any of the ones that are current prosecutors. You couldn't go back and say, well, you need to get your money back, but, you know, by that time, I don't wanna think that way. I feel that you'll handle this wisely and that it'll be renewed, like most grants.
I don't even wanna call this,
Operations.
I don't even wanna call this a grant. It's the way I see this, it's like the funding of the courts, you know, the state partially funds the courts. That's not a grant. The state partially funds the public defender.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a grant. This is not really a grant. This is going to be sustainable funding. And in many ways, I'm staking my legacy on this. So this is a big deal to me, to the county, to the board, and I go back to Senator Cherry, who heard my cries for help, and I really appreciate it.
Well, thank
So tell that to your nephew, Madam
I
Treasurer.
will, well, he knows that. But I will tell him.
Anybody else? No, I'll take a shot.
Yes, sir.
First of all, I'm for it, and, so don't even feel that any questions I'm about to ask, you need to take a defensive,
Marty, we can't
position
hear
on
you.
it. But anyways, as I was stating, is that I just need to project. I'm gonna be for it, 100%. I'm excited about it, and I've had a number of conversations with the state people, not so much Cherry a little bit, but Jasper Martis, because I wanted some type of assurance that they're working very hard to do what you're suggesting they're gonna do, which is make it an annual grant or allocation, or whatever you wanna put on it. And we need that, and to be prepared if they don't. I mean, I can understand Commissioner Shoemaker's standpoint on that, but there's absolutely no way we can predict everything in the future and be prepared for everything in the future. And I don't even know how to qualify and quantify him, suggesting that. And that's not saying that it's not a bad idea, it's just, I don't know how to go about doing something like that. But in this, and Shoemaker brought up a very good point, is if it doesn't go through, then we're stuck with the raises and et cetera, and can't go back on that. Can you break down, of that 3 million, about what percentage of that is going towards increasing pay? And what percentage is going towards increased staff?
$700,000.
Okay.
3 million.
So less than a
It
third
was
then.
645 that Doug had counted,
Okay.
645,
That helps me
665,
out a lot, yeah. But
so
I
less
will
than-
also continue to talk to my state reps and others to continue this process going into the future. And I hope everybody from the county commission side does that with their state reps. Because there's a lot of them out there and across this county. And we need to do that. But congratulations on your effort. And I've been here, a long time. And I know it's been a perpetual problem with your department of having proper staffing levels. And I'm sure you'll use it wisely. Congratulations on winning this.
And thank you to the Board of Commissioners, because you were helpful in obtaining this as well. Your lobbyist was helpful, and I know you all speak to your reps in state senate, so I appreciate your help as well.
Okay, is there any other discussion?
I have discussion.
Go ahead.
I appreciate your question. That was a great question because it really helps to quantify even more what Commissioner Shoemaker was asking about. It's basically like, just under $700,000 if we had to do something in the future. My question is more so about understanding the communication with prosecutors that will be hiring staff. Will they be made to understand, maybe if there's somebody who may be interested in watching it, but understand that they are being funded under this allocation, and understand, if by chance, it goes away, which hopefully it does not, that it may not be a long-term scenario, but one where that could be. And I don't know if you suggest that may maybe even deter some people from coming in. I don't know, how you communicate that, but.
We Commissioner, we communicated that even before this allocation.
Sure.
Because I've been
Budget
cut
process.
before. You go back to 2010, I was cut something like 30%. And I lost 14 prosecutors that year through layoffs and attrition. So I've become accustomed to telling new hires, there could be a cut and you'd be first on the cut list because of your low seniority in the union status. So I tell them that anyway. So yes, I'll tell them that for sure.
I was just curious. Thanks.
Commissioner Kuzino?
Yes.
So this $12 million set aside at the state level, will it help us to pay for the additional technology and all of the extra stuff that comes along with hiring 25, 30 new people?
Well, of that 12, we're only getting 3.
Right.
So out of the
So will that 3 million help us with buying the extra laptops, the extra, all the extras that go along with it?
No. If we spent all $3 million on the proposed hires, everything's accounted for. My husband says, "Why are you so good at sticking to a budget at work?" I think I costed everything out at like 2.9 something million, right? That is my conversation with Crystal was, we did our best to show you, what we needed, and in the memo saying, yeah, there's the costs to support all of this, but we have our $3 million budget, and we'll have to figure that out, I think, in the process, is how much is going to need to be added to support these people.
And the messaging from Lansing was personnel, not equipment. If you start buying equipment, they're gonna see that, we're gonna report that. That's gonna hurt the argument for sustainability.
Okay, one of the other concerns I have is that, in the grant, is there any restrictions other than that, not equipment, but personnel, as far as given raises as opposed to numbers of prosecutors? There's no language there.
It's geared towards retention and recruitment, so that's
That
where they
answers my
gave us the
question.
ability to raise pay.
And when I testified, I made it clear that we're having trouble recruiting and retaining because we don't pay enough. That was part of my testimony.
Any other comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations. Thank you. Resolution 23-539, forwarding to receive and file a copy of the paid county bills for the weeks ending 8/20/23, 8/27, 9/3/23, in the total amount of $23,027,760.36.
So moved.
Support.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes. Resolution 23-546, approval of a proposed amendment to the 22-23 appropriations resolution, reallocating costs to appropriate park funds.
So moved. Support.
Thank you. Is there any questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes. Resolution 23-564, approval of a request to create, post, and fill one administrative secretary position at Genesee County's Friend of the Court. This request includes the elimination of one program clerk's position that is currently vacant.
So moved.
Support.
Is there any comments or questions? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes. Resolution 23-569, approval of agreement between Genesee County and Monday Township in the amount not to exceed $1,300,000 to provide for the infrastructure improvements. This appropriation was previously awarded to the Genesee County's Water and Waste Agency and includes no new funding. This is an ARPA-funded project.
Support.
Is there any questions or comments? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Resolution 23-573, approval of a proposed amendment to the 22-23 appropriations resolution for various line items as described in the attached budget adjustment.
So moved.
Support.
Any comments or questions? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes. Resolution 23-584, the other number 24, approval of a grant award from Eagle in an amount not to exceed $1.5 million to provide funding for the Flint Water
So moved.
Front Restoration Project.
Support.
Is there any comments or questions, Mr. Shoemaker?
Josh, is there any matching funds required of that? Do you know?
If there are any matching funds that come out of the Flint endowment piece, not from us, is that correct?
It's coming from the state ARPA.
State ARPA? Yeah.
Okay.
No match from Genesee.
Okay.
Any other comments or questions? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes. Resolution 23-610, approval of a request to create, post, and fill. I assume that's an organization development position. The cost of this position is included in the FYE 24 budget.
So moved.
Support.
Is there any comments or questions, Mr. Shoemaker?
As I brought up in the budget, the wage we had for this, and I don't remember it in front of me, but what did we figure for a starting wage for this?
So I had put a placeholder of 110, I believe, and this request is for 90.
And can you explain to me again what this person's gonna be doing?
Sure. Staff development,
Which, that's a broad,
training, implementation of your priorities. Not implementation of your priorities, but helping staff implement those priorities across the board, and so that they understand those priorities, and weaving those values and priorities into our, into what we do.
okay? And I'm, like I said, I haven't worked for big government, I've worked in private sector most of my life, but, here's my question. Each department has its own nuances, right? And we're gonna hire somebody we think that understands what Pam sitting there, her department maybe needs, or the nuances from her department compared to what the prosecutor's department needs, or what the sheriff department needs, and we're gonna have that person. You're gonna be able to, for that kind of money, hire someone with that skill set, and I just, one,
If you think it should be higher, we can amend it.
no, I give it to the sheriff's department, I'd rather have another officer.
Yeah.
I'd rather have another police officer on the fight, like I said, you got a fentanyl problem, you got sex trafficking problem, I'll take it right now. I'd like to divide, I'll put a motion forth to divide and have them give it to each department, give 50,000 to the prosecutor, 50,000 to the sheriff, if I could get a second.
So I think that, well.
You're not on this committee, first of all.
I know, trust me, I know.
You can't make the motion.
Forbid. I'll make it next week.
So this board has made a priority of staff development and an effort to retain our staff. And you have said over and again that that is important, and that's what this position is going to do. I mean, at this point, I think we've talked about it more than once, and it becomes a decision for you all to discuss amongst yourselves. I don't have anything further to offer as to what this position is going to do. It's up to the board to decide whether they see value in it or not. That's not a decision for me, that's a decision for the board.
Anything else, Sean?
I've got a ton, but I will let Del Rico go because.
Thank you. Go ahead, Del Rico.
No, I was just gonna say, recently I had responsibility for building out a staff development department in the organization I work for. And we ended up ultimately, I mean, we have, over 1,000 employees, but we end up hiring 3 individuals that has different responsibilities. This is the point I wanna make, that generally when we looked for individuals to do that role just as this, it wasn't folks that had expertise in the various departments, but folks that had the capacity, number one, to communicate with the departments, to gather their needs and information to be able to assist and support and to create training modules, whether electronic or in person, those kinds of things, and then to be able to deliver those particular trainings, not just department specific, but also organization-wide specific, if there are various policies or whatever case may be. And then there's also a mixed bag. It could be things as it relates to trainings, as it relates to diversity or awareness or safety or whatever those things are. So really it's the folks that had the capacity to gather the information, put the trainings together, be able to deliver it and be creative and making sure it's communicated in a way where folks are able to kind of grasp the information. One person, I think for the entire county is probably not enough to be able to do that because it takes a lot of time to put together trainings, but I think it's a start. My question is in terms of hopefully that provides just a little more information, but my question is more so about the amount that we've set in terms of the salary. If we believe starting out that salary should be as high as it is or to the level that it is. And if there's a way for us to maybe even do more with it, to hire a person and to be able to, hire some kind of specialist or something. The other question I have is, as it relates to thoughts about maybe even using interns as well as we build it out. So if you can speak to that.
So the salary got a little pushback at the last meeting, that's why I adjusted it, we can put it out.
What was it originally? Give us
A placeholder that I had in the budget was 110.
Okay.
We can put this out and see who we get at this cost, and if we don't think that we're getting the appropriate person for that, then we can come back and make that adjustment. But this is where I'm comfortable today at this amount.
I'm only one as a closeout. I'd like for us to go out a little lower, maybe even at the 75,000 mark. I'm only one person, and then see what kind of talent that we receive, because I do know in terms of salaries for these type of folks as we build it out, this position, that it varies. So no other comment for me.
Anybody else? Oh, go ahead.
You sure?
I'm not, but go ahead.
Okay. Well, as always here, I'm obviously the minority in the way I think of this, but just a question sitting here. We talk about retention of people. Every time I turn around, I hear it's salary, why we lose people. I don't hear it's because of we're not providing a workplace where they understand. I keep hearing every time somebody comes to that podium, and you've been here long enough, those who have been here even just the 9 months you've been here, it's salary. So my question is, if we're gonna do this and you're gonna move forward with this as a board, how are you gonna measure this? Are you gonna measure it with turnover? Are you gonna measure, do we have exiting surveys when people leave the county that we actually ask them why they left? What was the main reason they left? What they felt was fair, what was not? We don't. We have no way. We've thrown this together because this is what we think the knee-jerk reaction is to people leaving. And we don't know. I could be wrong. It could not be salary, even though everybody comes up here, and this could be correct. But we've done nothing. I think the wage is too high. I agree with you. I think it's way too high for what that is. So you're talking 110 base wage, Mr. Freeman?
No,
That's
what I
all
said
in,
was.
that's all in?
No, what I said was, I put a placeholder in the budget for 110, and this request is for 90.
So you're starting this person off more than you're starting off with a prosecutor's gonna start a prosecutor off with a lot more education, I'm assuming. I've been here long enough, we used to have people that worked down, another person that worked down in the office and supposedly needed, and we've managed to be without that person for 3 years now, and the county still managed to move on. Those funds have gone other places that I think are more productive. To me, more productive is areas where we have had issues, which is public safety issues. And yes, we've dumped money into those, but we can still continue to. And next time you read the paper and there's a fentanyl overdose, or there's anything else like that, I just want you to think back, say, Commissioner Shoemaker, yeah, he's a real pain in the butt, but guess what? He did say, if we could have one more officer on the road, if that saved one life or stopped one child from getting abducted or being trafficked. Do you need this over that? Because you don't even know if this is really needed, because we didn't do any study to say this is why our people are leaving. My company doesn't even have an HR department, and we do an exit interview to see why you're leaving. And we're
Could I stop just for a second?
Fire
Yeah,
away.
it was my understanding in the past anyways, that we did do exit through HR
We do.
interviews.
And what's the tally then? If Benita doesn't mind coming up and telling us.
Morning. We do exit interviews, the staff that leave, we did put a pause on the interviews for probably the last, I would say, 6 months, just as we were reorging and we were short on staff. But a couple things is, it's not always money. Even if they tell the department that, we find that there's other reasons, so that's why we do the exit interview rather than the department. And I don't have total numbers for you, but I can definitely go back and look through them. This position is near and dear to my heart. I think an organization, we talk about the silos, and we want to break those silos down. We're Genesee County, we all are. And having the position with a county-wide vision of trainings and organizational development is important. When we have employees and you want to retain them, training and providing those opportunities is showing your staff that we care, or we want to give them the tools. But we do exit interviews, and it's not always about the money. And you can look at the studies and read the white papers, it's not always about money. Some people will leave for money, but there are other things that are valuable to them as well. And this position is an investment into our employees.
How do you, If you don't mind, Mr. Chair, if I
Go
could.
go ahead.
I'm sorry, I'm irritating you. I'm sorry for that.
It's-
I just wanted,
You know,
it's not my
okay,
money, it's
we'll have
taxpayer
a
dollars.
private conversation,
From-
okay?
From there. But the fact is we don't know even where we need to target because we don't have that information. And now we're throwing a number out to approve somebody to work and create a position when we don't even know where we need to target. So I'm the one who thinks this is crazy, and I would rather give it to the police, the sheriff department, or the prosecutor's office, but you guys, like I said, you want it, have at it. I've been to many fights like this, like parking structures and everything else like that. And I would just like you to, before you approve it, figure out a way to measure it when you do. See if you're successful. Because if your turnover rate's the same after this is done, you just wasted taxpayer dollars. So, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair, one, no,
I'm sorry.
I'll follow. I just had one follow-up to Anita. Is it?
I can't see from this, but we're gonna have that discussion too at a later date. As chair, I cannot see people waiting for their turn,
Okay, why don't
politely
we-
waiting.
Why don't we go
Okay.
back to the spacious room?
We'll have that
Everybody's
discussion privately, but I
Yeah.
just wanna make that clear to all my commissioners that if you think I'm overlooking you, I am not. I cannot see, from my angle, but go ahead.
Just one follow-up. I appreciate the information about the exit interviews, because I wasn't aware that that was something that took place. I understand the 6-month piece, but when you reconvene those, when you start back doing those, is there a way, that we can receive that information? It doesn't have to be names, but just, however that's tallied up, so we understand what that looks
We
like.
actually were just talking about that last
Okay.
week, restarting those and including it in the board monthly update.
Sure, thank you.
Commissioner Kuzma, can I go
Yes.
now? Okay, so, I want to go back to the corporate analogy, and sort of blend corporate philosophy with government philosophy. Because one of the things that government fails to do is to evolve in an effective, efficient manner. If you read the book Good to Great, if companies don't innovate and improve, they die on the vine. So we have to do that as a government entity as well. So that's my first point. My second point, that's the first point for support of this position. The second point is that I have gathered information by asking department heads during the budget hearings all summer long. I asked them 2 critical questions. Number one, what are the metrics for measuring performance in your department? The second question I asked each of them is what efficiencies can be attained in your department in order to stretch the dollars of every citizen from every budget item. So some of them gave me answers, some of them gave me weak answers, some of them didn't have answers. That is also justification from my personal research of the necessity for an organizational development person. The third thing I will say is that DEI has been a philosophy and one of the things that we talked about in our meetings as a priority. I've also talked repeatedly about lean management needing to be a component of government so that we can operate more efficiently and effectively. I've heard that we've already invested countless dollars in going down to Disney and finding out what kinds of customer service improvements we can do for the county to be better stewards to all of our residents. So all of these continuous improvement kinds of scenarios in order for them to just not be floating out there and not addressed, we need to have a person to actualize all of those kinds of things so that at the end of the day, we can be a little more corporate minded and have something called balanced scorecard. So we measure our success and we continuously improve. Because at the end of the day, once we eliminate waste in our system and once we figure out where we can find more money and operate more efficiently, that will create more money for a person to help with human trafficking, a person to help with the prosecutor's office. That's my argument.
Anybody else have any comments or questions?
Good job.
Yes, Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Yeah, I don't get a vote.
Mr. Chairman, under other business, I did hand out a memo from Crystal Simpson. What do you do here? She's our CFO. It's a budget amendment so that we can pay attorneys on some cases that we're currently involved in. So we can't do budget amendments after next board meeting for this fiscal year, so that's why it's a late add-on.
So you need a motion?
Yep, motion to approve that budget amendment.
Do I hear, okay, do I have support?
Support.
Is there any discussion or comments? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Is there any other business,
Mr. Chairperson,
Yes.
I forgot to say one more thing. In terms of the salary, I think it's great that we have that placeholder for $110,000. But what if we're more innovative with the salary for this organizational development position? What if we, I don't know, do we have the ability to start out at a lower salary and then offer incentives for if they save X amount of dollars at the county level, then they will get a bonus or something like that?
Yeah, so this will be an appointed position. We can talk about what our options are. I don't know that we can do it in that manner, but we don't have to put it out for as much as has been approved. That's kind of a not to exceed amount.
Okay.
is there any other business? Seeing none, we are adjourned. That kind of
We're ready to roll right into it.
I'd like to call our government ops committee meeting together, call of order, roll call.
Commissioner Avery?
Here.
Commissioner Shoemaker? Present. Commissioner Davis?
Here.
Commissioner Kuzma?
here.
Commissioner Ellenberg?
Here.
Okay. Like, next, approval of minutes from September 6th.
Support.
Any questions, discussions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And motion passes. Now we have opportunity for public comment. We open it up for public comment. Going once, twice. Public comments now closed. Communications? Okay. Any old business? No? All right, next we'll move to our new business, agenda item 1412. Approval of a contract between Genesee County and Axon Enterprise Incorporated in an amount of $875,093.34 to purchase 250 conductive energy weapons. The term of this agreement will finance the purchase interest-free from October 1, 2023 through October 1, 2028.
Support.
Any questions or discussions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next, item 455, approval of a grant award from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services in the amount of $65,572 to provide for crime victims navigator at Genesee County's Office of Prosecutor.
Support.
Any questions or discussions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next, we have agenda item 503, approval of an agreement between Genesee County and the DNA Drug and Alcohol Testing Center in the amount not to exceed $88,448 to provide drug and alcohol testing services for adults in our problem-solving courts.
Move it. Support.
Okay, any questions or discussions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next, we have agenda item 508, approval of an extension of a contract between Genesee County and Catholic Charities in the amount not to exceed $86,520 to provide substance abuse treatment services.
Move it. Support.
Okay, any questions or discussions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next, agenda item 509, approval of a grant award from Michigan Department of Health and Human Services in the amount of $231,949 to support implementation of programs aimed at reducing racial and ethnic disparities at the arrest decision point.
Support.
Any questions, discussions?
I have a question. Can somebody speak to this and tell us by what methods and means?
Yeah, so these are dollars that funnel through the Bureau of Justice to the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. It was a competitive grant, only 2 given out in the state, and we got one of them, so we're very proud of that. We wrote the grant, and I can send you the full application. I wrote the grant because what I noticed from
petitions that we get, delinquency petitions that we get. Several of them come from their school-based referrals. And I thought there's really something that we can do to defer these kids from the formal system. And so that's what we wrote it for. And the application requested proposals to really focus on the point of arrest. So kids can get diverted at the law enforcement arrest point instead of coming to the court and then getting diverted. Because we already divert about 40% of our petitions, we successfully divert those. But so we wanted to move back, swim up a little stream from that. And so what we propose is utilizing a mental health professional along with school authorities and the school resource officer when a youth is going to be arrested to try to evaluate amongst that group of people if it is an appropriate case that we could provide that youth support and services and their family support and services and not petition them to the court for formal court supervision. So that was our proposal.
Thank you.
We're gonna work, I'm sorry, just one more thing. We're gonna work with one school because also what we realized from our data is most of these petitions come from about 4 schools and it does directly impact minority youth, particularly Black youth.
Thank you so much. Just one closing statement. Just as we've echoed for like our elected officials and even for our staff, so a little repetitive, but kudos to you all and all department heads and staff that actively go after grants to bring to this community, to get creative in supporting our residents. So thank you.
And it's also a 2-year grant, so there's that too.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions or concerns? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Next, we have agenda item 511, approval of a grant award from Michigan Indigent Defense Commission in the amount of $19,552,425.48 to provide for Genesee County's Office of Public Defender. Okay.
Support.
Okay. Any questions or concerns?
Is this Mr. Chair, is this an annual allocation?
Yes.
It is?
Yes.
The public defenders come up.
Good morning. That is an annual allocation. The county portion does not change. This is, and we increased the number of, or the CMIDC increased the number of the amount because they changed to a standard 8, which is now going to pay attorneys hourly as opposed to the event-based that we had been doing. So now that's the reason for the increase, if you will recall. However, that's an increase for this year, and it may be in perpetuity. But the big thing here is for those present, the county portion does not change.
You're talking our language. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Okay, any other questions, concerns? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next, agenda item 518, approval of a contract between Genesee County and Genesee Health System in the amount not to exceed $285,000 to provide multi-systematic therapy. The cost of this contract will be paid from the listed accounts.
Support.
Any questions or concerns? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion passes. Next, agenda item 531, approval of a request to create, post, and fill a FOIA specialist position in the board office. The cost of this position is budgeted.
So moved.
Support.
Any questions or concerns? Mr. Schumaker.
We discussed this slightly before. Right now, we have corporate counsel that does.
We have an attorney doing this, yes.
So what's the benefit to us as a county board other than an increase in cost doing this?
So a couple of things. Number one, this should have been on the finance committee, so I apologize on that. But, we're gonna take an attorney who's doing FOIA requests, and we're gonna have that person do attorney things. That's the benefit. We're gonna maximize what he brings to the table, or she brings to the table, and we're going to hire a FOIA coordinator at a lower level to handle those FOIA issues for us. Historically, this has always been in the board office. It was just very recently that it moved to corporation counsel. The board chair is actually the FOIA coordinator for the county. And then this will also act as backup. As you know, I've got, our office has just one person who handles our day-to-day agenda and all that. I guess she likes to take vacations once in a while, so it's nice to have somebody in the office that can act as backup in that role as well.
Yeah, Mr. Schmidt.
Yeah, I read the room, yeah.
Good. You're good.
Thank you though, yes.
Anyone else? Yes.
I think we should post it as such where it's a FOIA specialist plus slash, staff in our office, because I didn't really push in this particular budget that believes that we, whereby we can fund it, that we need more support in our office. Even the more to support county commissioners, all of us, and supporting our constituents and doing our work. I've studied various counties, staffing levels in offices, budgets that county commissioners have to be able to communicate with their residents, to support various events, and so on and so forth. And even with our size, we basically have nothing. And that impacts how we serve and support our residents. So I'm in support of this, but I like to see it posted true to what it is. And then one clarification.
It's included in the job description, but
Okay.
I hear what you're saying.
And then one clarifying piece. Did you say that they're going to be doing legal stuff outside of the FOIA piece?
No.
Did you? Okay. Just want to be clear.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Rico. Anyone else? Okay. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Motion passes. Next, we have agenda item 542, approval of a contract between Genesee County and Securus Monitoring in the amount not to exceed $40,000 to provide for tether services for youth. The cost of this agreement will be paid from accounts listed.
Move it.
Okay. Have support? Anyone? Going once?
Support, I support it.
Thank you. All right. Any questions or concerns? All right. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Next, we have agenda item 547, approval of grant award from the State Court Administrative Office in the amount of $10,500 for the purpose of funding supervised parenting and exchanges of parenting time.
Move it.
Support.
Okay. Any questions, concerns? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Next, we have agenda item 549, approval of a contract between Genesee County and the Genesee Intermediate School District in the amount not to exceed $46,000 to provide for violations prevention and intervention services for court-involved youth. The term of this contract is October 1, 2023 through September 30th, 2024.
Move it.
Support.
Okay. Any questions or concerns? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Next, agenda item 551, approval of a contract between Genesee County and the Peckham Inc. in the amount not to exceed $637,000 to provide for voicemail rehabilitation services for youth who have been court ordered to participate in court school-based programs. The term of this contract is October 1, 2023 to September 30th, 2024. The cost of this contract will be paid from listed accounts.
Support.
Okay, any questions or concerns? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Agenda item 552, approval of a contract between Genesee County and Genesee Health Systems in the amount not to exceed $73,000 to provide mental health assessments, evaluations, and services for youth on probation. The term of this agreement is October 1, 2023 to September 30th, 2024.
Move it.
Support.
Okay. Any questions or concerns? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next, agenda item 553, approval of a contract between Genesee County and the Genesee Health System in the amount not to exceed $85,000 to provide behavioral health services for youth at Genesee County Juvenile Justice Center. The term of this contract is October 1, 2023 through September 30th, 2024.
Move it.
Support.
Any questions or concerns? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Agenda item 558, approval of a contract between Genesee County and the Mount Morris Schools in the amount not to exceed $150,000 to provide for educational services for court community educational programs. The term of this contract is July 1, 2023 through June 30th, 2024. The cost of this contract will be paid from the council.
Move it with the question.
Support.
Okay, we have a question. Dr. Cruz.
Yeah, Rhonda, is this the same amount every year? It's never changed?
It depends on how many kids are in the program, so Mount Morris gets the pupil funding from the state of Michigan. And then we get billed what isn't covered, right? And so sometimes it's more, sometimes it's less, but it never goes over 150. So if we have more youth in the program, it's less money to the county because more state funding comes to Mount Morris.
Okay, so it's kind of capped at 150.
It's capped at 150, that's right.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Agenda item 580, approval of a purchase order to IDEX for fiscal year ending 2024 in the amount not to exceed $40,000 to provide for testing supplies and laboratory results at Genesee County's Animal Control. Have a-
Support.
Support.
Okay. Any questions or concerns? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Agenda item 581, approval of purchase order to Zotis for the fiscal year ending 2024 in the amount not to exceed $45,000 to provide for vaccine supplies at Genesee County Animal Control. The cost of purchase order we pay from the following account.
Move it.
Support.
Okay.
I
Any
have a
questions?
question.
Yes.
Since we have Jay here, so I don't know what, like Zotis, what their company does, does that have anything to do with Parvo?
Yeah,
And
they sell the vaccines, IDEX being the testing company that we go through for testing for Parvo. Zoetis being the company that we use for testing for Parvo. We also use them for vaccines like rabies, things like that.
I know at the time during COVID, you know, the numbers were down of people coming out to be able to get vaccinations. Are we basically advertising and promoting the fact that we can do those vaccinations for the community for
Yeah, so
no
we-
cost or little cost?
Well, we have a vaccine clinic coming up this Saturday, and we are going to get those out to people, I'll get the flyers to the commissioners. We also have Pet Fest happening, and we also have another picnic that's going on for their animal control. So the vaccine clinic will be Saturday at the animal control, so we're breaking up our staff.
Do you have a flyer for that?
We will have one out here shortly. Danielle is in the process of making it up with the volunteer coordinator. They should have that out, and then it's put out over social media. But I will get you a copy of that.
Yeah, if you could do that, I mean, cause I know, you know, I sit on, our chamber, Burton Chamber, and we always have the Humane Society there. And that's something, you know, that can promote, the vaccinations that we're giving, and I don't know if they offer those type of services at a Humane Society, but, you know, Parvo, I know it's been really hit because we've been closing our animal control down.
Yeah, and I think that stems from the last few years of the price of veterinarian service.
Right.
People are just not getting the shots for the animals. And we're seeing that we bring the animals in, so.
Okay. All right.
We're currently at 210 animals right now, so.
So if you can send me that flyer, that way I can shoot it out to the people that I know.
Will do.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Next, agenda item 600, approval of a contract between Genesee County and Philip Davis. And Philip Davis, is that it? Billingway? Bovee, okay, thank you. In the amount not to, Bovee. And in the amount not to exceed $156,000 to act as a managed assigned council coordinator for weekly arraignment, misdemeanors, and other legal services. The term of this contract is October 1, 2023 through September 30th, 2024.
Support.
Okay, any questions or concerns?
I just have a question.
Yes.
David, have these salaries went up or these fees from past?
What we did was, or at least what I did was I made sure that I had one managing assigned counsel for those misdemeanors and whatever have you that comes through the district court. Prior to that, I had been using individual attorneys in the outlying courts. Now Mr. Bovee will be the supervisor for all of that information. I don't have to have contracts with the individual attorneys for the outlying courts.
Okay, all right, thank you.
But that is also coming from that $19 million that the grant award did provide.
All right, thank you.
That's Bovee the third, right?
Bovee the third.
Okay, all right,
I
let's
was
get it
gonna
right.
mention that.
All right, any other questions? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next, we have agenda item 601, approval of contract between Genesee County and Kevin Rush in the amount not to exceed $56,000 to act as managed assigned council coordinator for weekend arraignment, misdemeanors, and other legal services. The term of his contract is October 1, 2023 to September 30th, 2024.
Support.
Any questions or discussions? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. I believe there's no other business.
I just have a question.
Oh, yes.
Is there any movement on, I don't know if this is the right department or, for the lockup?
Captain Kennemer would be happy to have a discussion with you about that.
So, right now, there is no additional movement with that. The contract is still not signed, and we're planning on ending services at the end of this month, unless that contract is signed by the city.
So we're preparing ourselves at the department?
We are.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Any other business? Okay, this meeting is now adjourned at 10:21.
We can roll right into the next one, Commissioner.
All right, we're gonna call the Human Services Committee to order. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Winfrey?
Here.
Commissioner Lloyd?
Present.
Commissioner Davis?
Here.
Commissioner Shoemaker?
Present.
Commissioner Ellenberg?
Here.
All righty, approval of September 6 minutes.
Move it. Support.
Any discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it, motion carries. Are there any public comments to this committee? Any public comments to this committee? Any public comments to this committee? Public comments are now closed. No communications, no old business, new business. Resolution 286, approval of an agreement between Genesee County and Involved Dad in an amount not to exceed $74,160 to provide for case management for fathers in the Healthy Start program.
Move it.
Support.
Properly moved and supported. Any discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it, motion carries. Resolution 366, approval of an agreement between Genesee County and the Family Service Agency in an amount not to exceed $640,925 to provide in-home personal care and homemaking services for fiscal year 23-24. Any support?
Support.
Properly moved and supported. Discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it, motion carries. Resolution 367, approval of an agreement between Genesee County and the Family Service Agency in an amount not to exceed $228,200 to provide guardianship and conservatorship services for fiscal year 23-24.
Support.
Properly moved and supported. Any discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it, motion carries. Resolution 377, approval of an agreement between Genesee County and Alternative Elderly Care in an amount not to exceed $325,000 to provide in-home personal care and homemaking services for fiscal year 23-24.
Move it.
Support. Properly moved and supported. Any discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it, motion carries. Resolution 383, approval of an agreement between Genesee County and Legal Services of Eastern Michigan in an amount not to exceed $258,772 to provide legal assistance services for fiscal year 23-24.
Support.
Properly moved and supported. Any discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it, motion carries. Resolution 483, approval of the enhanced toxicological screening and opioid detection grant in the amount of $480,000 to provide for data collection at Genesee County's Medical Examiner's Office. Properly moved and supported. Any discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it, motion carries. Resolution 510, approval of a request by Genesee County's Health Department to travel to the 2023 Michigan Premier Public Health Conference in Bellary, Michigan. The dates of travel are October 2nd through the 4th, 23. Total cost for 12 attendees not to exceed $5,028. Any support? Properly moved and supported. Any discussion?
If I may, Mr. Chair. At a later date, I would like us as a board to maybe look into a policy where we cap how many or a dollar amount per year that can be spent on travel, for these different events. I mean, there's some that are needed and some departments obviously need more, some need less, but, it seems since the last couple of years has just kept escalating and escalating and escalating. And yes, Mr. Freeman gets the reports back, I'm assuming, all the time of what was learned, but, a lot of places have gone to the point where they go, okay, this is what we're gonna limit it on, so we make sure we're actually taking care of business back home. And yes, learning is part of that business, but also when you have that many people out of the office, just like you stated earlier, people need to take vacations, but also when people are training, they're out of the office also, and you're not, you know what I'm saying, you're not taking care of what needs to be taken care of. So, and I'm not saying they're not doing that, so don't misconstrue me, but I think it's a conversation this board needs to have moving forward. So, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any further discussion?
Was that a suggestion of a dollar amount in terms of what is spent or just, excuse me, Mr. Chair, I'm sorry. Was it about a dollar amount spent or just about the amount of staff that attends?
No, I think it would be more of a dollar amount. Yeah, I mean, cause I think it's something, like I said, I wanted to talk about it before we had another meeting, and I thought it was a longer meeting, I thought I'll wait. And this appeared in front of me again, and I wanna bring this up so we start thinking about it, cause I don't have the answer for this at this time, whether it would be a dollar amount, whether it be a time or whatever, but I do know I had a constituent send me, she came to one of our meetings and she sent me a email on how her company handles that moving forward, because we're talking about the cost of rooms and cost of this and cost of that. And, she had a bunch of suggestions, just like example, one of her suggestions was room wise, and same with my company, if it's over a certain amount for the room, guess what? That she pays it, or I have to pay it, and stuff like that. She said there's a lot of companies that are taking a different approach to this, and I just think it's something we should open our eyes to be more aware of, so.
Yeah, I just want clarity on what
Yeah,
you're
so
suggesting.
like I said, I would like to sit down more of a, once again, when Josh arranges our team workshop, those are things just that we discuss and might not go anywhere, but it might, so, thank you,
Any
Mr. Chair.
further discussion? Okay, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it, motion carries. No other business before this committee is adjourned.
All right, I'd like to call the Public Works Committee to order at this time. Roll call, Mr. Freeman.
Commissioner Lloyd,
Present.
Commissioner Ellenberg,
Here.
Commissioner Shoemaker,
Present.
Commissioner Kuzma.
Here.
All right, what is your motion as it relates to the approval of the minutes from the previous meeting?
Support.
Been moved and supported. Any discussion or amendments? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. All
Aye.
opposed, nay. All right, motion passes. Is there anyone from the public who wishes to speak before this committee? Any public comment? Seeing no public comment is closed. Are there any communications for us to consider?
No, sir.
All right, any old business?
No, sir.
All right, new business, resolution number 2023-513, approval of an agreement between Genesee County and Wilkinson Solutions LLC in an amount not to exceed $35,000 to provide for a liquid application of dust control. What is your pleasure?
So moved.
Support with
All right,
question.
been moved and supported. Commissioner Kuzno.
Dust control of what?
Roads within the parks, the dirt roads.
Okay, all right.
Okay, that makes sense.
I didn't, yeah, that makes sense, yeah.
I just learned something. Okay, so
Well, the reason we're asking is because generally, the road commission handles that portion of it, and so I'm sure that's what.
It wouldn't have come before us.
Yeah,
no.
that's why we're wondering if it was, so it makes sense,
is there a reason it's coming before us today?
because it's parks.
Cause
Okay,
sparks.
got it. Okay, all right, thank you. It's been moved and supported. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, motion passes. Resolution 2023-517, approval of a proposed marketing plan for Genesee County Parks and Recreation Commission. What's your pleasure?
So moved.
Support.
Been moved and supported. Any discussion? All right, seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion passes. 2023-555, approval of a purchase order to various vendors for the fiscal year ending 2024 in an amount not to exceed $45,000 to provide for concrete at Genesee County's Park and Rec Commission. What is your pleasure?
Moved with a question.
Support. Been moved and supported. Madam Chair.
So what's the concrete?
So, purchasing policy is if we're spending more than $30,000 on any one product, we have to get approval from the County Board of Commissioners. We anticipate that throughout the year, we're gonna spend more than $45,000 on different concrete jobs. We have to work, our staff is pretty good at it, so we're gonna move a dock on Branch Road. Part of that is we're gonna pour a sidewalk and a new area for a picnic table, so we're gonna have to buy concrete. So that's just different jobs all through the parks. It just makes it so we can just call it the concrete company.
And we do that
When
ourselves?
conditions are right to be able to do that.
We do that ourselves, we pour?
Our staff does.
Okay.
Yes, it's just for the materials.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Any further discussion?
Mr. Chair, a lot of these will be for annual purchases, so they're just getting that approval up front so that they can purchase through the fiscal year.
Sure, thank you.
Thank you.
Seeing no further discussion, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion passes. 2023-559, approval of purchase order to various vendors for the fiscal year ending 2024, an amount not to exceed $40,000 to provide for equipment rental at Genesee County's Park and Recreation Commission.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion passes. 2023-561, approval of a purchase order to various vendors for the fiscal year ending 2024, an amount not to exceed $50,000 to provide for janitorial supplies at Genesee County Parks and Recreation Commission.
So moved.
Move it, support.
Been moved and supported. Any questions? Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye. All
opposed, nay. Motion passes. 2023-563, approval of a purchase order to various vendors for the fiscal year ending 2024, an amount not to exceed $80,000 to provide for aggregate at Genesee County's Parks and Recreations Commission. What is your pleasure?
So moved.
Support.
Been moved and supported. Any discussion? Commissioner Shoemaker.
Just a brief comment here. I mean, I wasn't a fan of our purchasing policy as it is, and when you see these blank numbers, you basically authorizing their departments, and Barry's very frugal, and generally, if you ask him, he's gotten bids and everything else like that. But as we move forward with this is basically a check for them to go spend this without any checks and balances on whether, they're getting bids on stuff and everything else like that. Now, like I said, Barry's, when every time I've called him out on stuff, he's always, yes, we've done this, or X, Y, and Z, but just moving forward, this is, that's $80,000, that guess what? If not that he's this way, but just hypothetically, let's say you've got a department head that has a friend that supplies a certain thing, let's say you would just like last week supplied janitor supplies, and they're gonna make sure they make their extra $40 an order or whatever, the number you're gonna throw out at it. That's the reason I have a problem with these type of things. Like I said, I've questioned him more than not, and he's always been very good about doing that, but this is just at a broader level, so you look at it as a board. This is kind of why I don't like the way this is formatted. Now we're checking on it, but.
Do we have to explain?
Well, before he does, just a couple of things. So, if it was under, so if he decides he wants to go out and spend $10,000 on aggregate somewhere, that doesn't come to the board anyways as part of that process. A lot of these commodity things, the prices fluctuate. So for us to go out at the beginning of the year and say we're gonna do an RFP for a commodity that fluctuates doesn't really do us any good, because it might lock us in at a price that is lower or higher, within the year. So I think that, as kind of an agreement between these departments is that you've budgeted this amount for aggregate. We've got a purchasing policy that requires you to go out and get 1, 2, 3 quotes depending on the dollar amount. And that we've gotta have some faith in our department heads that, you know, you've hired to oversee a multi-million-dollar department, and if you don't have that faith in that department head to do that, then we should look at changing that department head.
Follow up.
And I agree with what, I
I'm
agree
gonna
with
try
what
to
you're
be very
saying.
tactful about what I'm gonna say.
Yeah.
Since I've been here, we have removed strategically department heads
I agree.
that were allowed to do this because the board, there were 5 members of this board that were fine with it.
Yep, I agree.
So if I can, moving forward, put policies in place that would stop this, it's my duty as a commissioner to do that. So that's why I'm leery of it. I understand what you're saying, and we've made strides in most of our people, like, and I said, Barry's not the person that should be up here if I'm having these questions, nobody right now in any of our department heads, but this is just, I want to bring to the board's attention, this is why I'm a little leery of things like this.
If I can, let me go, Commissioner Kuzno and then to Barry.
Well, Barry, I'm sorry, through you to Mr. Shoemaker, you know, I can understand your concerns, because we're all concerned about fraud and et cetera, but what would be your suggestion or solution?
Well, we'd had several discussions before about, one, reducing the number, and then the board decided that that was more difficult for our department heads, and they would have to come to us more often with that. I never minded it when they came to us with a few other agenda items to go over when they were smaller, and smaller purchases when that money was being spent, and that would be my solution, is bring it back to us. So that's mine. That's, you know, because our job is to watch over that, and this board made the decision with the last purchasing policy that was approved that this is okay. I am just pointing out that these are the things that make me leery, and if I had it my way, yes, almost everything would come, it'd be a smaller amount, and it would come in front of us.
Through the chair, you know, I guess my response is, either way, it's our responsibility to oversee it. No matter what that policy is, that we, instead of just constantly rubber stamping things, we need as individuals to take a closer look at it, whether we're monitoring a director and looking at every little minute detail that they're doing, or we hire somebody and trust them, and then remove them if they don't do what we say. But either way, any way you look at it, no matter what our policy is, it comes down to, you know, each and every one of us as a individual to monitor that and not just rubber stamp things. And then it just depends on, in my view, how detailed and minute we as individuals want to look at everything. And your level of tolerance would be probably different than mine, and mine would be different than Mr. Lloyd, I'm sorry. But, you know, so maybe this is something we should have at another time and just deal with the item that's on here.
I was gonna suggest that we add that to our agenda for retreat as well. Folks, I think it'd make for good discussion, and, because I have some couple things I'd like to raise on it, but I won't raise it in this setting. I wanna go to Barry, if that's okay, if nobody else have a comment, because I wanna move this agenda item. Barry?
I just want to remind the board that this does not waive all purchasing policy, so
Sure.
when we go to buy aggregate, you gotta get 3 quotes, we have to give it to the purchasing administrator, he has to check it out. and then
Will you
they
hold
issue
on one
purchase
second? Okay, will you repeat what you said?
I'm sorry.
You may wanna hear
It
that.
doesn't waive the purchasing rules of, so we need 100 tons of 21 AA aggregate, we'll get 3 quotes, we have to send those quotes to purchasing has to review the quotes, make sure that they're good with them, and then they'll issue us a purchase order, actually buy the stuff. This only raises the level of the dollar number that we can buy through the year without coming before the board of commissioners. Because what happens is, we'll be in July and we'll need some more material and say, oh, we've hit 30,000 for the year, we can't buy anymore, we have to go to the board of commissioners. Well, then it's a 3-week or 4-week delay before we can buy anything. So that just really helps us move things along. It doesn't waive any purchasing policies, it just raises the limit that we can buy. We still have to get the quotes.
Oh, I know, we're not, like I said, the policy's been passed already, and it's stuck. I'm just, like I said, the policy number to me, and some other issues are there, but, like I said, Barry, you, trust me, penny pincher. I know you are, so I appreciate it.
I'm gonna go to Madam Chair.
And, you know, it's not to exceed, so it's an estimate. So you feel that you might spend 80,000, but you're gonna go out and spend, buy 50,000, and then, but you have a 30,000 backup in case you need more. So that's basically what this 80,000
That's our
is.
estimate that we're gonna buy for the year, probably about 80,000 ounces. And just for aggregate we have 45 miles of gravel road.
Yeah.
Allis Township has 42 miles of gravel road. We spend about $400,000 every year in aggregate. So we're paying interest. We get by with a lot less than anybody else.
And if you didn't spend it all, it would stay there.
All right, so if there are no further discussion on this item, I'd like to move that, seeing no further discussion, all in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. All right, motion passes. Resolution 2023-565 is where I believe I am.
I think so.
Okay. Approval of a purchase order to various vendors for the fiscal year ending 2024 in an amount not to exceed $50,000 to provide for the purchase of tires at Genesee County's Park and Recreation Commission. What's your pleasure? Been moved. Any support?
I'll support it.
Been moved and supported. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion passes. 2023-567, approval of a purchase order to various vendors for the fiscal year ending 2024 in an amount not to exceed $50,000 to provide for the purchase of miscellaneous parts at Genesee County's Parks and Recreation Commission. What's your pleasure?
So moved.
Moved
Supported.
and supported. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion passes. Resolution 2023-570, approval of a purchase order to various vendors for the fiscal year ending 2024 in an amount not to exceed $185,000 to provide for the purchase of lumber and repair parts at Genesee County's Parks and Recreation Commission. What's your pleasure?
Moved. Support it.
Been moved and supported. Any discussion?
Aye. Oops, sorry.
That's your discussion. Okay, all right, seeing
You
no.
want to adjourn too, Ellen?
Yeah, seeing no additional discussion, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, all opposed, nay. Motion passes. Our last resolution, unless there be an add-on, resolution 2023-594, approval of purchase order to Complete Corporate Solutions, in an amount not to exceed $30,000 to provide for a network engineer staff person. What is your pleasure?
Support it.
Been moved and supported. Any discussion? Commissioner Shoemaker.
Are they gonna be working with our IT department then?
Yeah,
And
it's
something
basically,
IT can't do?
yeah, it's a staffing company. Essentially, he can provide you the more details, but we had a long-term vacancy there for that network engineer that we have to have. We've not been able to find somebody out on the open market. We're going through a staffing company to do that, but I think this may be the last request coming in because we may be able to hire the person that's been working with us through the staffing company. But there's gonna be a gap of time that we need, that our OPO ran out, that we need to cover until that time. Did I miss anything, Don?
Yeah, that's correct. So he has formally applied for the position. However, we've just about depleted that fund, and so we're looking for an extension of that so that we can move through the interview, hiring, onboarding process, covering during that.
Gotcha. What is your position and role again?
I'm the technical services manager, so I oversee the network engineer positions within the data center teams.
Thank you so much. Thanks for coming up. Any additional discussion? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion passes. Is there any other additional business or discussion before this committee? Seeing none, this meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.
Okay.